Okay, it looks like we have something pretty interesting that could make the Nintendo Switch 2 even better going forward when it comes to various different games, applications, frame rates that was discovered in Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour. Now, Digital Foundry had a look at this title, and while yes, there's just some little mini games here and there's some information about the system. Obviously, most people still feel that it should have been included in the bundle for the Nintendo Switch 2, which I do agree. I think they should have included it in there, but there's some interesting information on exactly what makes this system tick overall, and Digital Foundry caught something that I think is actually going to be really big and better for the Nintendo Switch 2 in the future. So here's what they had to say. Welcome Tour dynamically adjusts its internal rendering resolution depending on the resolution of the output display. For example, if the system is connected to a 4K 2160p display, the game internally renders at 720p and upscales to 4K. However, if the display is set to 1080p, the same demo only renders at 360p before scaling up. Similarly, when connected to a 720p display, the game drops to its internal resolution down to 240p. So the fact that it has this dynamic resolution scaling, or DRS, that could potentially free up additional resources to improve things such as the game's frame rate and other things with the game. And that to me is very interesting technology. DLSS combined with this type of thing could really create some pretty demanding games that could run really good on the Nintendo Switch 2 once the developers get a true grasp of the system overall. And I think more than anything, this is going to be massive for Nintendo's own first-party games. Don't get me wrong, third-party stuff is great. It's great to see that Nintendo Switch 2 can handle some of the big third-party titles, demanding ones like Hogwarts Legacy, to make a version that's way better than the Nintendo Switch 1 version on the Nintendo Switch 2. I don't even really think they took that much time on that version of the game, but I think that with Nintendo's big first-party titles, this could be a huge difference, as they caught this with Welcome Tour, but they haven't necessarily caught it with every other game that they've tested so far, and they've tested both of Nintendo's big first-party games with Donkey Kong Bonanza and Mario Kart World. So going forward, this could be a huge thing. What are the massive games that I think that could use this the most? Well, I've got 3 of them that points to a very exciting future, starting off with one, Monolith Soft's next major RPG. They are tech aficionados. Their games are very interesting because they don't have the biggest team over at Nintendo, but their games are often some of the most technically complicated and best looking on the platform. Monolith Soft does the most with the least overall in terms of getting the best possible visuals and the best possible, I would say, atmosphere and art, and what they do in their games all kind of packed in, but necessarily not the team size that you would see from some of Nintendo's other biggest games there, just because the Monolith Soft titles don't sell as much as, like, let's just say Zelda, or as much as the big 3D Mario. But I think Monolith Soft absolutely could use this technology, as with the Nintendo Switch 1, they really had to adjust over the course of the generation, bringing over the engine from Xenoblade Chronicles X to the Wii U, then upgrading and improving from there. But there was mixed results overall with Xeno 2, and then to Xeno 3, it got significantly better with a custom upscaler and all these different things that they had to build in. But when it comes to now with the dynamic resolution scaling, in addition to DLSS, these are all things that are natively supported on the system overall, so therefore Monolith Soft does not have to take the time in order to build their own custom type of versions of FSR or other things that they did to try to make Xenoblade Chronicles 3 not turn into a blurry mess when it plays in handheld mode, considering how massive that game is. So that is incredibly exciting for what Monolith Soft is going to do next. Also, the next major Zelda game, I think this will have to use it overall. After The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, I do feel that they are going to take a pretty sharp turn away from that style. I think they're going to do something a bit more grounded from what we've seen in the past, or maybe even improve upon that Twilight Princess and kind of put it in a little bit of a sleek sheen to it, or something else added in. I think that they might be going with more of a condensed open world in addition to back to a traditional dungeon sense with intertwining type of parts. I think that's what they're going to do for the next Zelda game. I think they're going to want to make it look very impressive, and this DRS in addition to DLSS combination 1-2 punch could absolutely be that extra kick that the Zelda team is going to need to make sure that this game runs at 60 FPS off the top, or at least there is a performance mode for that, because once you tried out The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom in 60, man, it's going to be hard to go back overall. But I think that they're going to do their best when it comes to what they can do with the technology, as Monolith Soft is also a regular and frequent contributor to the Legend of Zelda games for the past decade plus now as well. So I would expect Monolith Soft, I would expect the Zelda team to be using these technologies to really make something incredible, not only with just the visuals, but also with the gameplay too. Last but definitely not least, we can talk about the next big 3D Mario game. A lot of people feel that there won't be another game soon because of Donkey Kong Bonanza and the Odyssey team making that, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I think that they've actually been working on a big 3D Mario game, and they're going to reveal it, I would say, sometime in the next year or so. If it's not by the end of the year as the one more thing for a fall direct, I think they're going to announce it at a direct early in the year. There is the anniversary for Mario as well, so that could be a perfect opportunity to announce a big new Mario game for 2026. So I fully expect them to take advantage of all the technologies and different stuff that the Nintendo Switch 2 offers, as if you look at every single Mario game, usually big 3D Mario titles are one of the best, if not the best looking game from Nintendo on that system. Look at what they did with Super Mario Odyssey. That game, to me at least, is still the best looking platformer on the Nintendo Switch 1, and it targeted 60 FPS with some dips here and there, but portable mode, in addition to home console, targeted that 60 FPS and did hit it a lot. So to me, that is super impressive considering how the game looks, the size of the game, and what they had going on with it. That game is a technological masterpiece on the Nintendo Switch 1. You can even look at Super Mario Galaxy and what that did on the Wii, considering how limited the RAM and the graphics processing capabilities were on that system. Super Mario Odyssey looks fantastic. Mario 64, we know what that did for 3D platformers and 3D movement overall when it comes to controls. So they've done this over and over when it comes down to it, and I don't think there's going to be any exception here when it comes to the next major 3D Mario game. So expect them to also use this and get even better with this technology. But what do you guys think overall when it comes to this interesting Switch 2 tech that could be used for major titles to get even better going forward? Let me know in the comment section. But before we move on to the next topic, please make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're someone new, hit that like button, and click that notification bell to get my vids as soon as they drop, and let me know what game you're most looking forward to playing on the Nintendo Switch 2 in the future. But let's go ahead and jump into the next thing here, and it's very interesting to see what the Ori and the Blind Forest, Ori and the Will of the Wisp developer is doing with their next game, because it does seem like No Rest for the Wicked is going to be coming to the PlayStation 5 and the Nintendo Switch 2, but might be absent off of the Xbox platforms due to market conditions, according to the studio lead out there. So let's go ahead and read what Mr. Thomas Masher had to say recently. By the way, given current market conditions, we might only release on PS5 and potentially Switch 2 for the time being. We'll have to discuss things with MS to see what makes sense for Xbox. So that's very interesting, because this studio really kind of came on the come up based off of Ori and the Blind Forest and what they did on the Xbox platform. That's how they kind of made their mark when it comes to gaming. Ori, Will of the Wisp, Ori, Blind Forest, those were both really good games that started out on Xbox, Game Pass, and all that. They ended up selling okay on there as well, but the majority of the sales, I think, were on PC, according to Thomas. So they're skipping potentially Xbox here, and based off of market conditions. So really, when a developer says market conditions, that can really only point to the sales. That can be the only thing that really would stop this. When you say market conditions, the sales of the Xbox Series S and X are not good enough, and they don't really know what's going on with the next Xbox system. Is it just going to be like a PC-like box? What are they doing like with the whole mobile stuff that they have going on with Xbox branded ROG Allies? There's a lot of, I would say, uncertainty when it comes to Xbox hardware and what's going on, and obviously the sales aren't great either. So I think that's the reason why he's saying that. But if you look at the PlayStation 5, that currently is doing fantastic overall, and the Nintendo Switch 2 is off to a blazing start. So it makes sense to be on those two, but there's some questions discussions when it comes to Xbox. I just found it interesting because of the history that Moon Studios has with Microsoft, and he's talking about some of the things that I've discussed when it comes to the market and the Xbox Series X and S just not selling enough, and how some developers might be tentative based off of that, even though they have the power, they have the x86, they have everything that PS5 has in order to get a port over, but might not release on it because of that. We've seen a number of Japanese developers do that, like with the Legend of Heroes series and some other stuff as well. So what do you guys think about this? Potentially no rest for the wicked coming to PlayStation 5 and Nintendo Switch 2, but maybe skipping Xbox based off some discussions that they had with Microsoft. Maybe there's a big Game Pass deal that they can do. They did it for Ori, so maybe they have something here for no rest for the wicked, but that's not determined yet at this point. So what do you guys think about all of this? Let me know in the comment section below. But on to the next topic. We're going to discuss a potential big Camelot with maybe, just maybe, Golden Sun. So this is something that I actually got tagged with a while back, and I discussed briefly overall. So this year in 2025, Camelot Software Planning marks its 35 years since its start as Sonic Software Planning. Known for Shining Force, Mario Golf, and Golden Sun, the studio may be eyeing a return to its RPG roots. Recent hints, trademarks, and a Nintendo tease suggest Golden Sun may rise again. So shout outs to Tuk Tuk on Twitter. He tagged me in this, and I talked about it a bit, but I think I need to put some positive ethos out there. I need to put some positive energy when it comes to Golden Sun. And yeah, that would be great. Obviously, with this official, I would say, thing that they have here, if this is official from them, unless this guy didn't make that, but if this is official, then yeah, 35 years, 1990 to 2025, that is a huge achievement. Most gaming studios do not last 35 years. A lot of them closed down before that. So the fact that they're able to be 35 years is great. I think that part of them being able to stay alive for 35 years is because they got in with Nintendo and got in making the Mario sports games, which always gets you guaranteed money, guaranteed contracts, and guaranteed work. Like the fact that you can keep going with the work and it never really runs out because Nintendo's always going to want to make Mario sports games. But it has been a decade plus since the last Golden Sun. And in my opinion, the Nintendo Switch 2 is absolutely the perfect system to bring back Golden Sun. You've got a ton of overhead for this type of game. Golden Sun does not need to be the highest end AAA RPG where you're spending and you're doing all sorts of crazy stuff when it comes to the graphics and all that. But the Nintendo Switch 2 offers that overhead to where they have plenty to make the type of game, visually speaking, that they want to make. They can bring it back in the sleekest type of form. You can get it running at 60. You can get all the different features and things that you want in the game without breaking the bank, in my opinion. So if there was going to be a new Golden Sun, well, it would already be in development at this point, and there'd be some type of Nintendo Direct where they'd be getting ready to say, okay, Golden Sun is back. Now, this isn't related directly to it, but the fact that DK came back, 3D DK at least, came back after 26 years, and after 10 years, and yes, DK is considerably more popular, way more popular than Golden Sun will ever be, but at the same time, they still brought it back and it had great success. If they can bring back Golden Sun and make some really interesting gameplay hooks and mechanics, I think that it can do considerably better than what we got in the past. Now, one of the reasons why Golden Sun went away was because the development cost was going to exceed potentially what it could make. Yes, they made it back on the GBA. That's where it got its start. Yeah, GBA games were insanely cheap to develop. They developed one Nintendo DS game, upping the budget, and they were like, yeah, we're done after it didn't sell enough copies overall. So I think that was pretty much the start and stop of it. It ended before it even really started overall, from the GBA just to the DS and done. Nothing on the 3DS, nothing on the Switch 1, and it's essentially been dormant since then. But I think that the Nintendo Switch 2, like I stated, gives you enough overhead with the technology overall. It's easy to develop for, and they can make a game, to me, that will appeal to a lot of people ready, chomping at the bit to pick up Golden Sun, as they've heard about it so much as they released it on the NS. So I think it's just time that this does come back, and I'm hoping that they have something in the works here for a Nintendo Direct announcement, because I think this would just be incredible if this happened. You can also look at it in this way. Nintendo's had a lot of success with RPGs recently with Xenoblade in addition to Fire Emblem, so that type of momentum and success can transfer over to other types of games. Nintendo was in a little bit of a dire situation beforehand with Fire Emblem years ago, in addition to Xenoblade not being what it is not at this point, but they're able to build those franchises up over the course of time. Same thing could happen with Golden Sun if they gave it another chance on a modern platform. But what do you guys think about Golden Sun? Do you feel that there's going to be a return to Golden Sun at some point in the future? What about Nintendo Switch 2 in terms of what it does from the technology standpoint and how that can improve some of the biggest technological franchises that Nintendo has overall? And of course, the Ori developer and what he had to say, let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch 2 RPG content and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.